So we chose that kind of an aspect for you.
Well, thank you very much. Let me begin by thanking my fellow panelists with whom I had a very engaging discussion under your coordination yesterday or day before. And I learned a lot from that. But I thought that today I will share with you my reimagined education space for India. And I want to reimagine the K to 12 space, the K-12 space, the undergrad space, the master's program space, the PhD space, and the lifelong learning space, which in my mind is perhaps the biggest space which has remained unattended. And because we have not given any attention to lifelong learning, that is why we are lagging in the global rankings. Because we don't see this complete, comprehensive, connected, holistic way of thinking about education. So let's start by first giving up all our assumptions. And I'm going to be very provocative. I'm going to say we don't necessarily need any physical space for education to flourish. What we need is the ability of minds to meet and learn from each other. Let us give up the construct of I'm a teacher, you are a student. I'm at a higher level, you are at a lower level. All this doesn't work. Today, all of us are learners. The most important thing is not to have that information inside your head, which you can spit out, so to speak, in a lecture. What is important is to be able to answer questions. But for learning to happen, the most important thing is to be able to ask the right questions. And that is what we don't encourage. And we don't let our students have more of the time of a lecture. Why should a 45-minute lecture be a one-way street where teacher speaks and 500 students listen and expect to learn? There's no learning. Extremely limited learning. It's only when there is the dialogue and questioning and debate that the learning actually can happen. So you've got rid of physical space, you've got rid of teacher, you've got rid of this whole lecturing mode. So what are you left with? What do you need? What you need is a school of learning and experience, both. Where do I learn the most? I learn the most in open forums, in forums of peers, where people I have respect for come together and respectfully discuss and challenge each other, learn from each other, and create the new normal. The extent to which we have redesigned our mindsets, our physical spaces, our ways of working during this pandemic is unbelievable. Today, security does not mean a sentry standing with a gun protecting a physical space. It has become the cyber world where attacks from millions of people and organizations from all over the world are trying to attack, come into your database, steal your data, steal the communication that you're having with your customers, get you into a position where you can't operate your business. That's what you need to protect against. The whole idea has changed. So the whole emphasis, the whole space of thinking has changed. How do you bring this into this holistic education pattern that I talked about? So let's start building the new constructs of the new world of education, which will put India at the top. The first and most important thing is get rid of all mindsets. Our curriculums in colleges have not been revised for 20 years. It is shocking. Curriculum should be revised almost every day. So I'm saying there should be no fixed curriculum. What is important is to learn what is contextual and important today. And therefore, the whole idea of curriculum being fixed has to go. The whole ideas of subject boundaries has to go. Today, if I don't understand microbiology, and I don't understand accounting, and I don't understand cybersecurity and technology, I simply can't exist. I can't function. And therefore, you can't have the earlier idea that we'll send 10 million students into medicine and we'll send another 10 million students into engineering and we'll make the largest number of engineers who will not have work to do because they don't have the relevant wide education to deal with life and life's challenges. So the first thing we need to do is to create this ability to continually innovate with the curriculum. And that curriculum needs to be drawn from the new challenges that life is posing before us. It should on the fly change. The second thing we need to change is the idea of having the same peer group for every class for 11 years during K-12. Why? Why should it not be possible for us to mix and match students from all over the world in a virtual world and let peers choose their other peers? Today, technology enables that completely. So my next construct is let peers choose their peer set. Let there be a little bit of freedom in doing that. Let there be a little artificial intelligence, if you like, or machine learning in choosing that. Don't we put children who are particularly blessed into special classrooms? Today we have been able to manage that, but tomorrow you could multiplex a student from Sweden with a student from New Zealand, with a student from India in the same class on a virtual platform. And I would say that's something that India is ready to innovate with because we have a very fertile ground of extraordinary minds which can very quickly readjust to any setting. So that's the second thing that I would say India should do. Allow peer set choices to happen in an artificially intelligent, machine learned manner. Moving on, let the ability to learn happen because you have access to live content, live debates. Choose the teacher from anywhere in the world who's the best. Give the student the choice that in a particular subject, science, the best teacher in the world is Sangeeta Ji Kohli. So get her onto a webinar and let her take 30 minutes in a class. I can tell you today, to get the best people from across the world on one platform, if you have the convening power, has become easier than ever before. Because people don't have any objection to go somewhere and sit in their own home and give a webinar for 20 minutes, 25 minutes, half an hour, 1 hour, whatever. So convenient. And I could do it in 20 institutions. And I could do it on different subjects. And I can do it with different groups. So you create virtual classrooms. You create a VR environment in which education happens. And then you contextualize it because you are feeding the relevant curriculum through content that you have videographed and which brings the whole thing live to the student or the learner. So if I'm today discussing the COVID pandemic, and if I want to understand what is really happening, I need to have a three-dimensional live picture of that bacteria entering my space through any of my oracles which will enable it to go. And then what it does, how does it capture? What does it do? What is the fight between antibodies and the bacteria? How does it affect my lungs? How does it stop me from breathing? Now, all of this, if this is graphically known, then you get a far better appreciation, not only of what is happening, but of what you can do to prevent. So then you teach and learn through this entire medium, which is 3D interactive. And you should be able to interact. It's so important to have that interactivity. So you've got virtual reality, you've got experience-based learning, you've got peer set choice, you've got teacher choice. Teachers have forum choices. And you have an education system which will make people fit to accept any challenge. The next pandemic, or the next financial crisis, or the next war, or the next social upheaval will all pose very different challenges. And the purpose of education has to be that you can face those challenges. But the bigger purpose of education has to be able to innovate, to bring out these new ideas, and to be able to bring them into your own context and work with them with comfort, because that's the new way of doing things. What I learned 10 years ago is totally obsolete today. Therefore, I need to be able to learn every minute from whichever source that I can fasten onto, create my own learning space, create my own pace of learning, create my peer group, create my teacher, and make sure that I can interact. And now you think about how you can reverse the whole direction of our poor ranks, because everybody will have rich experiences to share. The amount of research papers that can come out of India. Take the example of China. Although today we have a difficult situation with the country, one must admire the fact that the largest amount of patents in the world are filed by Chinese. Now, we can take that ground easily because of the natural way in which we learn and because of the ability to face challenges and overcome them that we have learned all our lives. We can have the best papers. Some of the best CEOs in the world are Indians. Why? None of them are in India. We have only one person in India who has raised the largest number of resources from the whole world, but we don't have multiple examples of that kind here, but we can easily do that. We have the best teachers in the world. If you take Harvard, Stanford, MIT, the highest ranking teachers are all Indians. And therefore, I can see that if we can let our minds soar and we can remove all the barriers and the mindsets and the old notions that we have, then we could advance at a pace never known before. And what this lockdown has done is it has given all of us a chance to pause our lives, reimagine it, rethink it, and then press the accelerate button. So I want to press that button today in the presence of this wonderful audience of students and teachers and people from all over the world to actually give this message. Take charge of your own education for your entire life. And what the administration, people like you, should be doing is to create the enabling environment, to enable students to choose their peers, to choose teachers, to choose forums, to choose curriculum, to make sure that curriculum arises because you are capturing it, and then make it available at a democratized cost. Education should never be costly. It should be widely available. It should never be costly. It should never be unaffordable. I hate to think of a child who cannot go to have the best education because it's expensive. It's totally saddening to me. And so if you can do this, you can have the India, which will be at the pinnacle of great education, because we would have learned to live life. Thank you.
Yeah, so the first question is from Sabiha Tabassum. She is studying at Indian Learners Own Academy at Kuwait, UAE. And her question is, what should be changed in the present system to effectively impart application-based learning?
Three things need to change. You need to make resources available to enable that kind of learning. So I think a lot of these resources are now open source, as was mentioned during the discussion. What you need to do is to be able to bring it to your premise or to your device or to your learning environment. And I never de-emphasize the role of a teacher. It is the functionality of being in the path of accountability at all times and being able to answer questions and learn through that questioning, which will create that platform. And I'm sure that in Kuwait, which is a fairly well-resourced country in terms of per capita income being so high, to bring all of this together through technology, through a little bit of organized effort, should be possible. Get the best content on every subject from wherever in the world it is, and get clips from the best teachers from wherever they are in the world, and make that whole experience come alive wherever you are.
Is asking, while we are grappling to educate everybody, do you think we can look beyond conceptual teaching and implement application-based teaching effectively?
Absolutely.
Currently, we are in a situation where we are not even able to educate everybody.
No, it's so important. So I'll give you the whole action points. Let the top 100 IT companies of the world take a vow that wherever they can find a working device, they will pull it in, repurpose it, and distribute it to every student of the world. Everybody. Nobody left out. We cannot leave anybody out of the education phase. And empower this device with only two things: connect to the internet and connect to streaming content. The whole idea of static content is over. That era is gone. Nobody wants to read text anymore. Everybody is in an instant world. Everybody wants to see video. I cannot operate my cell phone without having these earplugs in my ear, because almost every WhatsApp has got some video content in it, some interactive content. Third, make it interactive so that you can question and have your questions answered. You can't always do a Google search. You need to have streaming and interactivity in order to make application-based learning at population scale. So get a device into everybody's hand, make internet available, make sure that it's content embedded, and let that content be streaming and let it be interactive. And then you got an answer to the whole world's education.
Exceptional solution, sir. That's an exceptional solution. Dr. Vijay Kumar Bikswing Pawar, he's from PIS Parbhani, Jintur district Parbhani. He says that application-based teaching will vary from teacher to teacher. Don't you think it will have an impact on the overall outcome of education?
Absolutely. And therefore, the teachers should get ready to be evaluated. Just as every trip that you do by Uber is evaluated by the customer, let every class evaluate the 45 minutes that they've spent with a teacher, or the 15 minutes they've spent with the teacher. Let the teacher know that he or she needs to transform himself or herself. This is so important. At the end of every meeting, I would like to have feedback because I want to improve. If I've slipped up, then I need to know how to get back on purpose. The biggest problem today is that teachers do not want to get feedback and do not wish to change. The question itself tells you the answer, right? I mean, if the teacher is keen to improve, then get feedback from your students. They're your customers. Doesn't every business get feedback from a customer? So go do that. Don't do any class ever in your life from today where you do not get an evaluation from your student. Because then you don't know whether you're effective or not and whether you've delivered the teaching. So change that mindset.
Perfect, sir.
This can possibly change into a different avatar where, these, as I was also saying, streamed content can be made available. So there are so many things.
Brilliant ideas. I think that's something that I endorse so much. What a fantastic idea. You just reimagine all physical spaces as learning spaces.
Absolutely.
And go to the place nearest to you, most accessible. You don't necessarily need to go to a school 20 miles away from you. It makes no sense in today's world.
They are talking about near home work. I mean,
work from
near
home. And work near home.
Not from home, not in office, but work near office. So you have these workspace. Yeah.
I gave the example to a restaurant chain that think of the table in everybody's home as your table. So you leverage their asset. It's the same as Uber, same as Airbnb. You just need to reimagine and rethink. I love your idea of library. I love your idea of post office. They're all doing nothing.
Yeah.
I think this is brilliant. Please propagate this. Brilliant. With your permission, can I talk about the 7 Ds of exponential technologies? And if you create that framework for yourself, you can master anything. So the first is you got to digitalize. Everything that's physical, you need to be able to express digitally. So then you can change it, maneuver it, interact with it, move it, and all of that. Then you disrupt. So you reimagine, you change everything. Then you become deceptive. So you wait till everything becomes available, like internet becomes available to the furthest part of India. Then you demonetize. So just drop all the monetary values associated with it. Think in terms of exchange, think in terms of leveraging assets, got what you talked about. Libraries are built. You don't need more money. It's already there. You just leverage. So demonetize. Then what you do is delocalize. So forget about where you are. Everything can happen from wherever you are. So complete delocalization. Then dematerialization. You don't need materials. You don't need chalk. You don't need blackboard. You don't need anything. You just need the ability to work with a seamless way through the devices. And finally, democratize. Do it at absolute scale, at lowest cost, affordable to everybody. And you will see that technology will start seeping in everywhere. Today, we've just created wrong cost barriers and nothing is allowed to actually happen. So if you follow these 7 Ds, you can have technology actually taking charge. And we are on the cusp of doing this in India because we are the best at doing all these 7 things.
Exactly. Brilliant. That is brilliant, sir. 7 Ds. So yeah, they can become your strategy formulation part. Sir, would you like to give your concluding views?
Sure. I endorse everything that was said just 5 minutes ago. I would only like to add, get excited about education. Let every one of us realize that if we do not educate every young person, and if we do not get into a lifelong learning mode, we simply cannot get past The time to wait is over. The time for action and implementation is now. And I would follow fully everything that Mr. Chandra said. Brilliantly said, so beautifully said.
Thank you so much, sir. I think we've lost contact with Sandhya sir. Thank you so much, Shailesh Haribhakti.